up, family? It's your boy Gerald. You are halfway through your week. It is the 3rd of May, 2017. To some, that's hump day. But nonetheless, how is everybody doing? Yeah, I'm feeling a certain kind of way because I kind of I had some energy on me last night, fam, and I was feeling that there was either someone connected to me directly or indirectly that they were at a very pivotal place and they needed clarity, they needed validation on where they were, because the truth of the matter is they'll never ask it. Those words will never come from their mouth. Their pride is too thick, or they're too invested in whatever their illusion is, because the reality is they're in pain. They've been in pain for a long time. But I had a different situation yesterday, or an example be revealed to me yesterday at work in regards to communication. Some know this as colloquialism or local slang, or a interpretation of the environment, a verbal litmus test where you find comfort. My point I'm trying to make is, while I was at work yesterday, one of my colleagues came and said, well, it's hot, and instead of using the noun of it's hot like such and such, he used a word that didn't have no reference. Now, I ain't tripping on that, because I understood the mentality of all my personnel that I work with, and I know how they communicate. And I'm pretty savvy when it comes to trying to find the metaphoric reasons of what they're trying to explain. But I understand. And for 35 minutes, a conversation ensued amongst the co-workers on why, and it had no energy, no reason to have even took place, and it got heated to match the temperature outside our door. Now, being that I'm in a position where I have to set the tempo of what's going on, I walked in there and I had to bring focus where focus needed to be, and bring it back to what needed to be done at the task at hand. But in turn, ensure that everyone stays face. And I didn't have to, but at the end of the day, the bigger picture that impacts me and the outcome I require from them. But what I got out of that example was what had been going on in society. We know this as slang. We even through the decades saw it, and saw socially how they tried to rationalize communication that had no merit, and they labeled it under urban, meaning minority, and called it ebonics, and tried to pretty much the first attempt to dumb down the mentality or the educational skill set, which it failed. But the remnants had always been there through the ages. Those who are from the East Coast, back from slavery, even in slavery time, you had what we knew as the Geechee slave, and their means of communication compared to, which was nothing but local demographics of how they communicated in their social setting. but that is remnants today. That's also a failure to educate our young, because that is being set as a tone to educate the young. So if mama's doing it, it's got to be okay because mama is enforcing it. If daddy is setting the example of what is the norm, it must be okay to do. It's not. And all that does is set us up to be the lesser, the poor example, the butt of the joke, and the disappointment. But there's no here, no there, because that also falls back on the individual, you, and how you wish to be understood. How can I fully understand you? Or how we used to say, how can you feel me if I can't convey what I need to? How can I keep it real if my communication doesn't reach you? Do you realize how much blood, how much loss of life, how about referendums have been set like a game of tennis? Game, set, match off of poor communication? How about accepting and admitting when you're wrong? Oh, can't do that because that's a pride thing. Oh no, I can't take that L. But you'll suffer in silence. How can someone give you what you need if you don't convey what you need? Because doesn't that connect to free will, the right to choose? How about the right to say no? How about the right to protect? How about the right to be still? But we live in a society now, Queens, you know I love you, but society don't give a damn about you because society wants you to be the whole. Society wants you to destroy your inner fibers. You don't have to be loyal to you. Just sleep with the whole block. Yes, go right ahead. Swell that backside up because we don't want to know what's inside your intellect. But you expect the one to come, last name. You can't be yoked with the unyoked. But a fool and his money will soon part. But you will never hear nobody talk about the splintered families. You don't never hear anybody talk about the endless tears that continuously flow through time. They ain't stop. Some of y'all know that as generational curses. And what is a generational curse? That's a failure to take accountability and make corrections as needed. How about take accountability and ownership by speaking your truth? But we don't want to be celebrated. We want to be infamous. One of hip hop West Coast and hip hop legends out in California, WC from WC of the Mad Circle. He had a song called "I'd Rather Be Feared Than Loved." But really, everybody wants to be loved. But see, it's an introverted, passive aggressive position because nobody wants to play the servantry role. Nobody wants to admit what they need, even if it means costing them their life. But what happens? It never fails. There's still going to be a corner with a bunch of women stressed out, crying a river of tears because little Johnny ain't coming home. Little Sarah was missing, and now she done turned up a memory. We got more loyalty on our social needs and awareness than what is inside us that matters the most. But we got to turn a blind eye when now, okay, I got them doctor visits, but you wasn't thinking about that when you were screwing the block. This ain't shade. This is awareness, family, because the bigger picture is if they valued your life, why would they set the propaganda in place? Some of y'all are old enough to realize when a certain family was known for sleeping around, and now you've been around long enough that you've seen the social climate that now they ain't feeling them no more. Why? Because they've got a younger group ready to graduate and do more for less. But you can't put a price tag on your self-respect, family. It doesn't matter how much money that you acquire. That's no different than giving more peanuts to the elephant to do that trick, or getting little Bobo to dance. The real money you will never see because they're nowhere to be seen, but they're benefiting off of your ignorance. Meanwhile, they're educating their young on what not to do because they use you as the exception of what not to do. You don't see them disrespecting themselves. You don't see them squandering their money just for flash, for temporary validation. There's nothing wrong with creativity, family. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you're putting more out and not getting it in return, hold on for a minute, family, because I hear somebody outside my door. I'm just kind of curious where it's coming from. Okay. Okay. Pretty good. Sorry about that. So they're turning our young little girls into old women. They're starting systematically by destroying your faith. Then they finish it up by destroying your mind, because if your mind's not intact, your body won't either. So that doesn't, you get to a place of numbness and frozen where it doesn't matter who slides in your bed. It doesn't matter who goes upside your head. It doesn't matter who then took your purse. Who am I talking to? Because you think it's all good because you see it on TV? Come on, family. What's on TV is not made for life. It's not made for reality. And think about it. Why would you want to have a reality that is false? Because when the cameras go off, guess what? They go back into their own world. They don't have to worry about going to work the next day. They've already paid the cost mentally, physically, socially, economically, that they have that false bubble. That's why a lot of them look run down now. That's why every time you turn around, they got a glass in their hand. Why? It ain't to be social, it's to keep the pain in. Because all of them got a body count. And all of them lack intimacy. That's why they fight so much. And guess what? They're fighting each other, but really they need to be fighting themselves. Because the truth of the matter is, the adversary is looking right back at them. Did you hear what I said? So let me tell you what's going on right now for someone who might not be aware of this. Right now, there is a campaign, family, for you women, my queens, my flowers. Listen, I told y'all 6 years ago, damn near 6 years, I said protect your temple, protect it. And if you protect it, the right one will come in the intended time. Because if you protect it, guess what? You protect it from those who will only want to destroy it. And you know the benefit of protecting your mortality? Guess what happens? It protects being yoked. But see, that's how God does. He gives you everything you need. Puts it right in front of you, waiting for you to come to that cognitive mindset of, do you understand what has transpired? Why do you think you see it again? Why do you think you're feeling it? There's a reason why you're feeling this. Because you're ready to graduate from that emotional tie. Do you realize there are people still to this day living false lives? They do it on a financial set, on a social set. You see that all the time in the social aspect, especially the ones, half the ones you see in media do it for valid, because a lot of them paranoid, and a lot of them do it because they got no choice, because someone's pulling the strings like, you need to be there at this time with that, and don't be late. And that's part of the contract, because they don't want to go back to that normal job. Hmm. That's why when it's all said and done, they look like they then went through hell in a handbasket, because literally that's what it cost them. And those big things ain't nothing but for the executives. That's their parties. You know that, right? I'm gonna get you to sashay in there with nothing but your respect on. But mind you, the people that are paying for it, you ain't seen their family do it. You ain't seen their women, their men. You don't see them. Even the ones that are flamboyant. Yeah, the ones saying I don't need him, but I'm gonna be with him. Hmm. Let me tell you something. Until you decide to stop running from who you are, that depression's not going anywhere, because that depression, and let me tell you, the term depression is nothing but a medical terminology or justification for not saying the real word, burden, turmoil. And what is the commonality between those two words? Fear. Fear. Finally, everything's a reality. And the reality is you're not happy because you ain't living your life. Why you think your sex life is the way it is? Oh, it was fun when it was new because you didn't know the truth. But when you found out the truth, oh, shook you to the core, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Because see, you can't run from you. That's why I've conveyed this a long time ago. Because you have a lot of ignorant people, and I mean that out of love, that have this mindset of just get under someone else to get over them. Love don't work that way if it's blessed. It'll actually feel like you're removing your heart, like surgery without the actual required and aesthetics. But guess what? I know a lot of y'all have had your hearts broken since you were a child because your parents didn't know how to love you. And the truth of the matter is, their parents didn't know how to love them too. Part of it was social. Now, mind you, what was going on? The radio was powerful. TV was making a footing. The movies had a position. That's why they started off very cheap, because they were using these as tools to influence the masses. You wouldn't have a gangster if you didn't have someone to illustrate what a gangster is supposed to be. That's why you never see the reality of being a gangster. Your life gonna be cut short. That's why you hear people say, you ain't built for this, son. Because the truth of the matter is, real gangsters don't talk. But what do we have right now? We've got countless little boys striving to be men, but they have no examples of manhood. But they got plenty of illustrations of what fuck boys are. And they're confused because part of them wants to connect to their feelings, but they're afraid that if they do, they will be looked down upon. First of all, that's not your environment. That's where the term lost boys came from over 30 years ago. Because lost boys are lost because they don't have a dad. They don't have a male influence. That's why I tell you, Queen, no matter how intent, no matter how much your intentions may be, you cannot turn him into the man you want him to be. He will never be your husband. So stop treating your son like he is. Because as long as you instill those same traits, another woman's going to come right behind him and break his heart. He's going to be drawn to the women that he should run away from. Meanwhile, they're going to exploit him over and over and over and over. And that's how your sugar daddies are made. That's how your pimps are bred. And what happens? You got a lot of runaways these days because social media is the breadcrumbs. But if love actually existed in their homes, they wouldn't be here either. Think about it. Because Johnny the Predator, he's a pathological liar. He's also very savvy with the internet. And depending on if you're not checking on your babies, he may have someone that looks just like your babies talking to lure them away. Who am I talking to? You realize how many young moms have spent more time in hotel rooms and secret rendezvous instead of doing things on their own, but they won't admit it? Tell you about every dinner car that's ever been out there because they didn't hop in and out of them. But they'll tell you, oh, that's my friend. He ain't your friend. Let's make that straight. If he's a male friend, yeah, but his whole intent is to sleep with you. He'll wait you out. But see, here's the funny part. You have some women that have this mindset as you like the game. You think you're doing this. You think you're doing that. Until you run up to the right one. And guess what? They didn't checkmate you. They didn't already did a checkmate before you didn't took your first move. And guess what? They have made your life a living hell. And you can't move. Because they've got so much on you. Maybe they have something on your family members, or if they've told you that if you try, something's gonna happen. That happens. Still in 2017, family. You don't believe me? Go down to your local Wally World and go by the bathroom, you know, the restroom, by the cashier, the checkout, and look on the wall. There's a lot of babies up there. And they're all under, what, 7 to 17. And guess what? A lot of them are not, and I don't wish bad on, I wish for every child to find their way home. But guess what? What's going on parts of the world? Red light districts. How you think those girls show up in those brothels? Some will. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some that will. Hey, look here. I want to make some money. A lot of it's not willing, but they all have drug problems. They're all making concessions. And let's not get it twisted, because guess what? The United States still to this day has underground prostitution rings, underground sex homes. You got pedophiles out there that have homes that, y'all remember that whole thing that was going on about these abductions and stuff? These pedophiles have a level of communication that the average Joe does not know. Why? Because they don't want to get caught. But they do, and they gonna pay, and they gonna pay dear. Because see, God has a way. When God does get tired, He make your truth look right back at you. And until you make it right, you can't grow. And that's where we know the term karma. Yeah, karma. Energy out is energy return. So if you've done something that you knew you should not have done, it got to come back to the source. And what is required for forgiveness? What did God say? 7 times 70? So that's 490 times it's going to cross your mentality before you finally embrace the deed and you atone. But you know some don't. And guess what happens? It's inherited through your children's life. Who am I talking to? Come on now, y'all know that. Y'all seen this. You seen my man, he got 5 girls. What's the odds on that? Because he was a womanizer. And guess what? He gonna learn what not to do to each one of those kids. Because they're gonna be 5 virgins of him and his deeds. They're gonna come to his door. Can I see Charlene? Bam! Can I see Sarah? Bam! And you know what? He ain't gonna tell his daughter why he's nutting up. Because the truth of the matter is he sees part of himself in that young man. Same thing goes with moms. Most moms that are aggressive and the guy comes. Most moms that are like that because they were the promiscuous ones too. They were the promiscuous ones, and then they finally got to a point of, I need to slow my roll, because if I don't, life is going to get real hard for me. And you know, is only going to hold up for so long. And that's the truth. And that's why you see a lot of these young women out here that don't want to use their brain. They use their physicality. Say, well, you know what? As long as I make this wiggle work and I make sure that that cookie snap, he's going to take care of me. You know what? That's fun for a minute. But if there's no love in that, if there's no genuine love in that, nothing around you. He won't want to. He'll hope that you turn around and go about your merry way because you didn't deserve the right to plant the first seed. Maybe that's why you see this sometimes. You see people have been together for a long time and there's no babies. You find that odd? Ain't no babies there? It's because God don't want that person to have a baby with that person. Not yet. Especially if it's a man. He don't want his seed spilled in that person. That person is going to be his downfall. No matter who they are, no matter what they bring to the table. It's tainted. That's why when she turns around and say, I will never do that or never done that, what she's really telling you is she ain't did it with you. She has no intentions on doing that because that means it will compromise her vision of who you are. But she's played around. She's done more. And she prays that you never find out. That's why she keeps her friends at a long arm distance. She does that because that's her shame. That's her shame. And you know it too. That's why your questions don't get answered the way they should. There's always around the world. Why? Because she can't answer it within herself. Maybe that's the reason why her temperament is the way it is. And God forbid she tries to strong arm you. She try to manhandle you. You the guy. You're the guy. And she putting her hands on you. You need to go ahead. Come up with a point of exit. Because you're at risk. You're at risk. Your safety, your mortality, and how about your civil status? Because guess what? We live in a world that you don't have to be proven guilty. Just the fact that someone makes an accusation and the pen is written, it's recorded. It's harder to undo that than identity theft. But that's what the justice system has always been. That's why you see so many people getting DNA overturned, decisions. And yes, we can sit up here and say, well, racism had a lot of dope. Yeah, it did. Fear had more to do with that than racism. Because the truth of the matter is, people didn't want change. They didn't want change because they knew that socially that would change the dynamic as a whole, and they couldn't afford that. They couldn't afford that. So anything that they could do to keep the masses, us, distracted, they'll throw you some crumbs for that. Don't educate yourself. That's why usually people that have wealth, they're already doing other things by the time it makes it to the level of the common populace. They've already made their money and they're just waiting on the yield, like the farmer. They've made their investments 5-6 years ago. They've already got the deeds. They've already got the stocks. So now when it goes Joe Public, guess who gets paid first? The people that had the deeds. So I'm going to bring this home, family. Do you realize how many elders, people that are be blessed to call themselves elders within the last 30 years, how many of them are silently walking around with mental health issues. I'm gonna tell you how that is. You've gotten condoned to a point where you say, nah, they just always just had a mean streak. Nah, they've always been that way. You gotta deal with them a certain way. Nah, you can't come to him like that. He likes to break stuff. But if you just take a step back and see the effects of it, you also see that's why Junior does the same thing. That's why little Charlene has an attention deficit issue. That's why little Billy can't focus on his grades. But they'll quickly say, go ahead and throw that 3 up. Mm. I don't know if y'all realize this, y'all, but there's been a push to enhance the STEM program in your public schools. They've been doing it from private schools for the last 10 years. Charter schools jumped on, and some have been exposed to magnet level schools too. And you're going to come to see that what is going to happen. Little man that could not stay awake in school. Listen up, millennials, because you're going to see this. Little Charlene that couldn't shut her damn mouth, but she was quickly ready to show her little cakes instead of opening a book. Watch how the unemployment levels shift. But watch how the employment agencies respond. Now, y'all might not realize what's going on because you can't put blame on the person sitting in the seat. Because even if you didn't like who got that, you need to blame the people that look just like you at your level that represents your community. Because your biggest effect is city level. But you know what's so what's sad about that is? It don't matter. Because half of y'all don't give a damn because you won't vote anyway. That's what's sad. But then when you feel the effects of what's going on, we want to be up in arms. But see, that could have been prevented. It could have been avoided. And here's the thing, though, because through the decade, it's going to take 30 to 40 years to fix where we are now, if we lucky. And right now, Queens, first of all, you are beautiful, you are unique, you are one of a kind. In the moment that you decide to look that beautiful little girl that lives inside you in the mirror and give her foundation back and stop imitating what you see on the TV and outside the door. Because see, the girl that's outside the door and the girl that's sitting on the TV is broken. She broken. She will do whatever to feel false security. Oh, you need me to degrade myself? Give me a little piece of paper. You know that ain't nothing but crumbs. But you know what you don't see? You don't see the other cultures doing it either. You don't see little Sue Ling busting it open, do you? She's busting open another bank account, though, ain't she? Yeah. You don't see the other minorities. You don't see the other cultures making an ass out of them. No. Because they realize this. They might be a little difficult, but they're not at the bottom looking up top. And you still don't understand who the children of Israel is. You still don't get it? You better stop and connect the dots. I'll do one better. If creation was documented, first track in Samaria, known for civilization, mankind, right? And God said, I make man in my image. So we are children of him. And Jesus was what? Okay. Now keep in mind temperature, climate change. All right. Who's to say that as big as the continent of Africa was, is, and is going to be, that not one person said, you know what, I don't like the rules and regulation of queen or king, or you know what, we got to break out because if we don't break out, they're going to kill us. They didn't pack up a boat and go somewhere else. The West Indies, South America. Why is it we got statues? They got these broad noses and big ears, these jawlines. But you too caught up on because, well, their hair is long and straight, Gerald. It's called heat. It's called heat. I proved it to you. Remember when I grew my hair? It's called heat. Hotter it gets, the lighter it becomes. 5 shades of brown. You still don't see your blessing. 5 shades of brown. If it was the other way, why isn't the trajectory the opposite? Why is it everybody wants the 5 shades of brown? They love this because the blood comes with the history. But you can't understand the history until you understand your relationship with God. And you know what's funny? And I'm going to shut this down. Maybe that's the reason the whole I don't need a man mindset came about almost 25 years ago. Start hearing a bunch of women saying, I don't need a man. Maybe those were feminists. Maybe those were closet schizophrenics to justify the behavior. But here's the funny thing. How are you going to turn around and say, I don't need a man, but you dress like me? You steal my identity. You even go out and grab false products. You don't need a man? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Why are you lying? Maybe that's the reason why you're mad. And that's why you always see on the low, because everything comes full circle. Your first deception is when you stop having a relationship with your daddy. You start having a relationship with the block. And every little vagabond that came along that said something nice, you open the golden arches. Then instead of beating yourself up and being still and understanding that you love yourself more, that can be prevented because that's wisdom of what not to do. You turned around and leaned on Sheila because Sheila was going to tell you the same. She told you the same thing you wanted to hear, but she exploited you more than any of them did. This ain't shade. This is to pick you up. Because guess what? As long as you choose to wallow in your disrespect, as long as you keep putting a price tag down there, you will never be able to evolve or exalt this. What? Sooner or later, you can break that. It's called sexual transmitted diseases. It's called sterility. It's called death. How about this? Your DNA says, you know what? I'm shutting down. White blood cells don't fight no more. And guess what happens? Now you got to pay a copay to someone you don't want to see. And they're going to tell you what you don't want to know. But you already know. And what's sad about it is, our opportunists don't need their help to expose themselves. Well, what is required for you is have the courage to see what's going on. If they loved you so much, why are you hurting? I know y'all heard that Layla James anthem song about I don't want you no more. I know y'all heard it. The lyrics are tight. But the one thing you don't hear is her saying that song, I love myself more. You don't hear her take accountability for, nobody can make you open your legs but you. You don't never hear that though. But you're quick to say, he put his hands on me. You opened your legs. He was no good. You didn't have to answer the hello. He was grabbing my cakes. You didn't have to put them out there on display. And here's the funny thing, because I know there are going to be plenty of women that are going to say, well, I can dress and do what I want, but we are what we attract, right? And if you dress provocative, guess what you're going to attract? Johns. But you know what you won't attract? Mr. One. He will look, but he will pass you by like Farside. Why? Because he's got his last name and his seed to protect. So while you worried about what's in his wallet, you need to worry about what's in his soul. Because until you connect to it, who do you run to? Be blessed.